All right, here in Parnell Park with Dublin hurler Chris Crummey. How are you getting on, Chris?
Very good, Owen. Thanks very much. Yeah.
What is the one emotion that comes to mind when you think about the Dublin County team at the moment in terms of the direction you're heading?
I think positively. Like there's a great buzz within our camp at the moment. Lots of young, exciting new players, and I think it's probably one of the strongest plans we've had in a number of years. And there's a great management team in place there as well. So it's exciting. We're really looking forward to the season ahead, the remainder of the National League, and then into the summer, and just trying to build week on week.
People outside the camp will always judge a team on where they finished in a campaign rather than actually analysing all the different points that have been marked throughout the season. I think you'll probably accept that that's been the same for last year. People will talk about the Laois result rather than all the other things that you achieved during the year, especially coming that close to a Leinster final, getting out of the Leinster group.
Yeah, definitely. I suppose initially after the Laois game, there's a lot of hurt and disappointment, and that's the only thing that matters at the time. But I suppose when you reflect on it on an individual basis, and then as a team, like we met a few weeks after the Laois game, and certainly there was learnings to be taken from that game. But like as a whole year, there was certainly a lot of positives to take as well, and I suppose that's what we're trying to do, building those positives that we took from last year. Like the Leinster Championship was so competitive last year, and such fine margins. Like that day in Parnell Park, if Wexford or Kilkenny had either beaten each other, we would have been in the Leinster final, and I'm expecting this year to be no different. So we just need to know we need to constantly improve and try and build on last year.
How many days, how many weeks does it take for you to get into that frame of mind that you can think positively about the season last year?
After a defeat, it's tough, and it does. The initial few days after a game, you probably want to distance yourself away from hurling a good bit, and it does take time. It took us a few weeks to be honest and frank in terms of looking at yourself, in terms of what you can do to improve, or what maybe you should have done in certain instances. But then as a team, then you collectively meet, and you have to be as honest as possible as players and management as well with each other. And definitely we feel there was lots of positives from the year, like drawn with Wexford, and probably should have beaten them here in Parnell Park, beating Galway, playing Kilkenny in Nolan Park, and probably we were very disappointed with our second half performance that day. We were 4 points up at half time. So there's lots and lots of things to be highly positive about, but we had the expectancy. We wanted to win the Leinster Championship, and ultimately when you don't succeed in that, you probably view the year as a failure. But when you break it down, there was lots of things to be positive about as well.
Yeah, for sure. How does that change then going into this year? Is there any changes in the way you're thinking and the way you're going to approach the season?
There's not a whole lot of changes in terms of your preparation or your mindset. It's more just about like really being really highly critical in terms of analysing yourself first and foremost. Like as in, how can you improve as a player, and what are the areas you need to improve at. And I think if you've a team highly motivated to do that, I think that's obviously going to benefit the team and the group as a whole. So that's really as a group we try and improve yourself first and foremost, then which hopefully will bring it into the team on that basis.
I'd imagine that can be fairly difficult for somebody who's in the conversation for All Stars on a regular basis in the last couple of years. So personally, what did you do when you looked in the mirror in terms of bringing yourself forward?
There's a lot of things I need to improve on, to be honest. But yeah, like there's
like what?
I suppose lots of things. My fitness levels, my just small little things. You're looking back at games and you're reviewing clips in terms of you might have went for a ball in a certain way. Maybe I should have gone with my hand that time, or I should have gone with my hurl, in terms of just defending the aerial ball, or different things like that. So you're trying to review different games and different snippets of games to see how could I improve there. And I think like if you listen to any of the great players from years gone by, like that's really what makes them. It's just that constant striving to improve in different facets of the game. Like there's like coming back this year, there's so many different areas that I think I need to improve on, and I'm trying to improve on, and hopefully if I can do that, then I think it'll make the team a better team. Yeah.
That's interesting, because it actually has the hallmarks of something Johnny Cooper was saying on the show earlier this week. He was saying that not only does he study himself, he actually watched the likes of the O'Shea brothers playing for Kerry and seeing how they would actually defend certain situations as a cornerback. Do you do the same thing? Do you watch other people in terms of how to approach the halfback role?
Not particularly. I wouldn't say I'd focus on a particular player, but I'd probably focus on myself. And there's great resource there that you have the games available to you, and you'd look at different ways. Maybe I'd try and improve. There's definitely certainly halfbacks out there over the last few decades that I'd be a big hurling fan anyway, so I'd be watching the games and might be looking at things they're doing or different things, and I suppose that's what you need to do. You need to look at those things and see what areas of the game you might be able to transfer into your own performance and your own ability. So yeah, I suppose I'd nearly do that maybe without like taking time to do that. I'd probably be doing that subconsciously or by just watching the match, like, right, okay. and trying to observe all those different things. What's
the most important attribute of a halfback in inter-county hurling at the moment?
Most important, I think you need to be an all-rounder in terms of. I think if you look at the halfbacks nowadays, a lot of them are have high fitness levels in terms of getting up to support the attacks and also in defence. So it's you do need to be both very competent in defence and attack. So I think that's important. Most halfbacks now, you see a lot of them come to the field and contributing to the scoreboard. But then I think also like your wing back or a back, his number one job is to stop their man, and there's no point going up scoring a few points if your man's doing damage the other end. Yeah. So just that all round game, you need to be strong about both facets of the game.
Yeah, it seems that it's the position that almost gets most prominence at the moment. I'm not sure if the whole Barcelona thing with Brendan Maher is almost too close in the rearview mirror at the moment. But it does seem that those three positions at the moment, I don't know, is it the length of the puck out when they're not going short, or even after they go short, it seems to be that is the line of defence that gets bombarded with aerial balls. So you're very much in the firing line. It's almost like your most dynamic line of individual hurlers, it seems.
Yeah, I think it is a great platform for every team. If you look at a lot of the successful, the Kilkenny team, the Cork team of the Naughties, ones I would have grown up watching up, their half back lines were their platforms, like the John Gardner, Sean O'Halpine, Ronan Kern, or JJ Delaney, Tommy Walsh, Brian Hogan. Like they were probably the platforms for many successful team, and I think you need to have a strong platform as a half back line for your team.
Where is the game of hurling at the moment? There's been a lot of talk of a black card potentially being brought into hurling. Where do you stand on that?
I personally wouldn't be a fan of the black card coming into hurling. I just think at the moment there's not really a need for a necessity from the players. Like from chatting to teammates, like I think the game is in a brilliant place. You look at the games of the last 2 years, we've had some of the best games during the championship from the last few decades, and I don't think there's a need to change. And if anything, like it might bring in other issues into the game that we don't need. So I wouldn't be a fan of it coming in now in Congress.
That seems to be a bit of a standard answer amongst everyone. In fairness,
maybe just defenders. Maybe defenders are coming out with that, but I think that's it.
Like, you can't argue against the fact that the game of hurling has been in unbelievable fettle over the last couple of years. Is there any appreciation in your mind at the moment that we are kind of in a golden age, that there are certain games, like granted you've kind of been at both ends of the coin last year, where the unexpected can really happen in the championship, and I think you look at the semi-finals last year, that weekend has turned into the greatest weekend in Irish sport in terms of the quality per minute. I guess if you're a player, perhaps it's a bit tougher to actually appreciate the quality of something when you're only focused on yourself.
I just think the reason the quality is just the highly competitiveness of the teams in Ireland at the moment. So you're looking at the Munster Championship and Leinster Championship, and people are talking about how great the Munster Championship. Like the Leinster Championship last year went down to the final seconds and minutes of the competition, and that's why I think it's just a high competitiveness between the teams. They're so evenly balanced, and that's bringing these exciting, really exciting games in the summer.
Well, Chris, very best of luck for the season ahead, and we'll chat to you again soon.
Thanks very much, Alan. Cheers.
Cheers, Chris.